Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Reading Euphoria. My name's Georgia and today I'm going to be filming my summer wrap up. So for those of you who watch my channel, you will know that I kind of changed things up a little bit for the summer and I did a summer TBR, and I don't really know how well this has gone because I feel like that over 3 months so many new books come out and my TBR was just changing all the time. Well, there were so many books that was coming in and I was wanting to read those over what I'd kind of designated as my TBR for the summer. So I've tried it. It was okay, I guess. I've read quite a few books, but I think I'm going to go back to be doing monthly TBRs. So my next video will be my September TBR. Just a little bit of a heads up for you guys. I will not be doing seasonal TBRs anymore. I mean, I say anymore, I only did one, but I'm new to this, so it's a little bit of like a trial and error. So I apologise, but that's just how it's going at the moment. So for my summer TBR, I said that I would do July, August and September. The weather's been a little bit crappy here, so I've decided just to cut my summer TBR short because it no longer feels like summer. I don't really want to be going along with a summer TBR when it's raining all the time. So I've cut it short, so it's July and August, and in July and August combined I read 9 books. That was including my booktubeathon week, so I think I read 4 books in booktubeathon week, so that really helped my reading over the last couple of months because I seem to read quite a lot in that week. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you the 9 books and give you a little bit of a review on them. So the first book that I read this summer was The Good Doctor of Warsaw by Elizabeth Gifford. I absolutely adored this book. For anyone that actually knows me and kind of knows what I read, I love World War II or World War One and just kind of that whole era, and it sounds really awful, but I love kind of learning about the Nazis, etc., and it just makes for such a good read. My voice went. It just makes for such a good read, especially since it is a massive part of our history. So it's just something that I'm really interested in. I love reading about it. So for any of you who don't know, The Good Doctor of Warsaw is based on a true story. So it's based on the Warsaw Ghetto based in Poland, and its main couple of characters are Misha and Sophia, who are both student doctors. They're in a relationship, they've fallen in love, and they work for Dr. Korzak, who is basically this war doctor. I think he was in the war, I think he fought in World War One, and he has an orphanage in Warsaw, and then basically when the Nazis take over, they take over Warsaw, and all of the Jews in Warsaw get put into a ghetto. It's all built up for them, so the orphanage then has to then move into it, and it's based on a true story, which is the most amazing thing about it. And it's basically just a story about how they get through everything that the Nazis put them through. They're having to live in a completely different place, completely different. They're basically like barred in. It's like a prison, but it's not. It was a really horrible and awful situation that they had to be in. So it's just basically the story of that. Like I've said, I absolutely love this book. The fact that it's a true story just makes it so much better because you know that this actually did happen, and you feel so much more for the characters because you can relate to them a little bit more because you know that they're actual people and you know that it actually did happen to those people rather than the author just kind of making it up. So that was just something that I loved so much about it. This book was just beautifully written. It was absolutely gorgeous. You can really get a sense of how Dr. Korzak and Misha and Sophia really want to care for these children, and they want to help them through anything that the Nazis are going to throw at them, especially in such awful times, and the author does an amazing way to present that to you. I honestly loved this book. I had like a hangover like a book hangover once I'd finished reading it because I just wanted more. I wanted another story, but unfortunately that was all you got. So it's not exactly a short book, but you want to know more and you want to know what happened to them afterwards. So but it is an absolutely beautiful story with a tragic ending, but you can't really expect more during World War II. It does really hit the heart, and it is an amazing book. So if you are interested in World War II, please go and pick this up because it is a great book. The next book that I read is One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus. I read this as part of my Booktubeathon week. It wasn't in my Booktubeathon TBR, but it was a book that I was reading at the time, and I was about halfway through it, so I didn't want to stop reading it because I was so invested in it. For those of you who don't know, One of Us is Lying is a YA mystery thriller. It is based on the main 4 characters of Bronwyn, Cooper, Addie and Nate, and basically all 4 of them are framed for one of their classmates' death, basically, or murder. So they all get dragged into and kind of like set up to be in detention, all at the same time with their 5th classmate, Simon, who is the one who dies. There'd been a car accident that had happened, so the teacher had to go and see whether everyone was okay, conveniently at the same time that they were all left alone, and then Simon then drank the water and passed away. So this book was just great. You can see it from all 4 points of view of each characters, which I absolutely love, because each character has a different side of things to tell their side of the story. So it was lovely to see that each character had something different going on in their lives, and you could really learn about each character from their point of view, not from just from someone else's point of view, from one point of view in the book, and you can actually know completely about them. This book is just brilliant. Like, I honestly finished it, and I'm gonna say this about loads of books, because that I do really have a habit of picking up books that I know that I'm gonna like anyway, because why would you want to pick up a book that you know beforehand that you're not going to like? But this one really topped it off for me, and it did not disappoint whatsoever. It was absolutely brilliant. I can't praise Karen McManus enough for this book. So if you want a amazing YA thriller, mystery thriller, you need to go and pick this up. It was honestly brilliant. I can't recommend it enough. The 4 points of view that you get in this story, you get to see everything that's going on. You really feel like that you're involved in it. You feel for these kids. They're like 16 years old and they're getting framed for murder. You really feel for them through her writing, and it is absolutely brilliant. Go and pick this up. My next book that I read this summer is Scream All Night by Derek Millman. This book actually surprised me in the end. I was kind of like halfway through it, and I was sort of sat there and I was thinking, what am I doing carrying on reading this? It was completely different to something that I would usually read, and if I didn't really know the hype of it that much, I probably would never have picked it up if I hadn't seen it quite a lot over social media. This one's quite a strange one. It's based on the main character of Dario Hayward, who basically he was abused a lot by his father when he was younger, and he left home and went to this orphanage. His mum got put into like a mental health hospital when he was a bit younger, so he didn't have that mother influence around him. His dad owns a movie company, and they film kind of independent movies up in their massive castle that they have, which is cut off from everything else. All of the staff live there. They don't actually go out, and Dario was used for one of his father's movies, which he got abused for both mentally and physically during the course of the filming of this film, and it then drove him to then leaving, and he then went to go into this orphanage. This book started off really weird. For any of you that have read it, his father plans his own funeral. He's dying anyway, and basically he wants to be buried alive like one of his movies. So straight away, I think that's within like the first like couple of chapters, I was literally like, what the hell is going on here? And still about halfway through the book, I was like, I don't actually know why I've carried on reading this. At points it was quite boring. I wasn't really drawn into the book, if it wasn't for the sheer fact that I was willing to finish this book, because I hate DNFing books and I hate not finishing them. I wouldn't have carried on, but it was okay in the end. I think I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, so it wasn't atrocious, but it just wasn't the best book. It was well written, but it didn't draw me in so that I wanted to know what was kind of gonna happen in this book. I advise that if you want to look into Scream All Night, you go and look at the plot and you kind of see if it's really for you. If it's not for you, don't pick it up, because I don't know whether you'll be like me and you might get a little bit bored. So yeah, that's my review on this one. Done. It was okay, I'll keep it, but wasn't the best book in the world that I've read. The next book that I read is The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas by John Boyne. I've seen this movie many a times, and for Booktubeathon week I did this as my book to movie adaptation. So you read the book and then you then watch the movie. And I liked the book, but it was just kind of what you saw in the movie written down. There wasn't really anything extra in there that kind of made it any more special. It's kind of like a classic, not like a classic, but everyone has read this book at some point. So it's one of those books that I feel like is like mandatory to read, but it isn't the best book in the world. It worked well for Booktubeathon Week because it is a really, really skinny book. So I managed to then tick off another book read and another challenge done, but it wasn't really, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I'm probably like the only one. The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas is based on the main character of Bruno, who I think is like 11 years old, and his dad is high up in the Nazis, and they move house from Berlin to kind of like the countryside, and they're actually right next to a concentration camp. Bruno has obviously left his friends in Berlin, so he doesn't really have anyone to play with, and he loves to explore. So one day he goes exploring and he gets to the edge of the concentration camp, where he then meets a Jewish boy who is the Boy in the Striped Pyjamas. Shmuel is the Jewish boy that he meets, and they build a friendship with each other where Bruno brings him food and that, and at the end of the book, obviously Bruno doesn't really know what this camp is for. He's only 11 years old, he's not going to understand it at all, so Shmuel gets him some striped pajamas, and Bruno actually comes in to the camp with him, and he ends up getting gassed, and you just see at the end of the film and at the end of the book how his parents are trying to find him desperately, and they then discover that he was actually in the concentration camp because they find where he dug under to get under the fence and his clothes that he took off to then change into the striped pajamas. But it was a good book and it was a good film, so yeah, I'm glad that I read it, but it wasn't really anything special. The next book that I read is Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. I read this book in Booktubeathon Week as something that you want to do. So I want to go on a road trip, which is exactly what this book is about. This book is based on the characters of Amy and Roger, and basically Amy has to move across America to go to different states to then where her new house is. I think that her dad passed away in a car crash, which she feels like that she was held responsible for because she was driving the car. So her mum has now moved completely different states, and she is having to get the car from one state to the next. Her mum's friend's son, Roger, she's kind of known when she was younger, but they haven't really spoken in quite a long time, but he also needs to get from one state to the next. So their parents sort them out on a little road trip. Her mum organises it that it's just kind of a plain and simple one, just couple of stops, simple hotels, but they have different ideas where they actually want to make the most out of this, and they want to go to places that they want to go to and have a bit of fun. And in the end they actually end up falling in love. Sorry to give you spoilers, but the whole trip, Roger's looking to kind of rekindle things with his ex-girlfriend, and then when that then doesn't happen, they realise that they've actually fallen in love together, and you then get to the end of the book and they go like their separate ways, but they've kind of agreed that they have feelings for each other and they want to carry things on, but they are a couple of hours drive away from each other, so you never really find out what's going to happen there, which is why if you watch my Booktubeathon vlog, I want a sequel to this, so I know what was going to happen in their relationship. I would absolutely love that. But I did really love this book. It was like a great like subject and genre to like explore, having them on a road trip, and because I want to do that as well myself, it was really interesting to read it in a book. I love Morgan Matson's writing, so of course I'm going to love this book anyway. I love every single one of her books, and it was lovely to read the first book that she ever wrote, which is this one. If you like Morgan Matson's writing, then you should then definitely go and pick this up and see where she first started from. And it is a great book because you get to see how the characters develop from the start to the end, and how the relationship between Amy and Roger develops as well. So I would definitely go and pick this up. The next book that I read is Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. This book I had mixed reviews about before I picked it up, so I was a little bit I didn't really know how I was going to react to it. As well, the subject matter is something that I wouldn't usually read, and I wouldn't usually pick up a book with this genre. For any of you who don't know and haven't seen this one about, Undead Girl Gang is based on the character of Mila, and her best friend Riley dies. And when they were alive, when Riley was alive, they both did Wicca together, which is like witchcraft, and they did a lot of spells and they made things happen. So when Riley then passes away, everyone is kind of like saying that it was suicide because two other girls from their school committed suicide at the same time, and Mina doesn't believe that for 1 second. So she does a spell that brings Riley back to life, but it also brings the other 2 girls who died back to life as well by accident. So they have a week together before they then go back dead again, basically. Yeah, this book was quite weird, not really my type of thing. I kind of rated it 3 stars, I think, on Goodreads, because I did want to know what happened in the end, and the ending was quite a shocker, so it was quite a nice turn and it did make you want to read. But the first half of the book, I was kind of like, I wasn't motivated to then pick up and start reading. So for that fact, I wouldn't recommend this book a lot. I feel like that you've got to kind of be into like that Wicca, like witchcraft type genre anyway, which I'm not. Witches aren't really my thing unless it's in Harry Potter. So unless you're into that genre, then yeah, go for it, go and pick it up. But if you're not, I don't really advise that you do, because I feel like that you'll be like me and you might get a little bit bored. But the second half of the book did pick it up a lot, and I did really like the ending, so it wasn't all that bad. Like I said, I'd give it a 3 stars on Goodreads, so it wasn't the worst book in the world, but it also wasn't the best book in the world. I wouldn't pick this one up again. The next book that I read is Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. I absolutely loved this book. It was honestly amazing. I'd seen a little bit of a hype about it, well, a lot of hype about it, and I kind of was like, pirates? I'm not gonna like pirates. I'm not that type of girl, so I didn't really think that I was gonna like it anyway. But I thought I'd give it a chance because I've seen a lot of the hype about it, and honestly, it was fantastic. If you don't like pirates, that doesn't matter, because it's more about, what I fell in love with is the characters and the relationship between the characters, and how you want to know what's going to happen and what's going to develop. And I can't wait for the second one, because I can't wait to see how Alosa and I think it's Daxon or Raiden, I can't remember at the top of my head, so I'm really, really sorry, but one of their kind of like falling in love. They are obviously, they're not friends, they're rivals, and she is trying to steal something from them on their ship, basically. So she actually plans the fact that she gets taken captive by them, which is really, really exciting, and it kind of gives that like more mystery element to it, which, like I said, I love mysteries, so it was more up my street anyway. But their relationship, they hate each other, but you can also tell that there's something else there as well, and I can't wait to explore that in the second book, Daughter of the Siren Queen. And yeah, this series was amazing, so even if you're not into pirates and you think that you're not going to enjoy it, go pick it up, because it is absolutely fantastic. The next book that I read is Sadie by Courtney Summers. I picked up an arc of this at Yauk like a couple of months ago. It is due out on the 4th of September, so not long now if you want to get yourself a copy of this. So I read this book literally like a week ago, and I read it in 2 days. Obviously, it's not the longest book in the world. I think it's 310 pages, so it's not massive, but also I was really proud of myself that I only read it in a couple of days, so that was really, really great. On the back it said, already the most buzzed about young adult thriller of 2018, and it honestly did live up to that expectation. It was fantastic. For any of you who haven't seen it or know the plot, you need to go and read it because it's fantastic. This book is based on the character of Sadie, and her younger sister Mattie dies, or gets killed, basically. She's murdered, and Sadie knows who's done it, or doesn't know for certain, but she has an inkling, and it is basically her trying to find the person who killed Mattie. The thing that I loved a lot about this book was that half of it is told in Sadie's point of perspective, and the other half is told kind of through like a television, like radio kind of like setup, so it's more like script like, and that is kind of like taken place like a couple of weeks after you read like the Sadie like type of thing. So like the Sadie, what happens in her life, you then hear about it like a couple of like chapters after, like a couple of weeks afterwards. So it's like great that you can see how they're kind of like developing. They're basically trying to find Sadie and find out what's happening to her, and you can really get that sense of the fact that they're just like following her. They're like one step behind her basically, and that's why that they never actually find her in the end. This book was fantastic. Honestly, I cannot recommend it enough. If you like YA thrillers, this is honestly the perfect book for you. Courtney Summers did absolutely an amazing job of this, and I can't recommend it enough. You need to go and get yourself a copy of it. So that is this video over and done with. I'm sorry if it was long-winded. I tried to get in as much as I could in a short amount of time so I don't drag this video out a lot, but I also wanted to give you kind of like my opinion of it, because that is the point of this channel, to go and recommend you books and to hopefully get you to go and buy them and read them, because that would just be an amazing feeling. There's actually nothing better than recommending a book for someone and they actually go and buy it and they love it. And yeah, that's what I want to achieve on my channel. So hopefully I have kind of inspired you to go and buy some of these books that I've read, and yeah, let me know if you have gone and bought any of them that I recommended to you, because that would be like an amazing like reward for me. So yeah, that would be so lovely. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week in my September TBR video. So yeah, I will see you then. Have a good week. Bye.